Hi, and welcome to The Sound of Self, the podcast that's all about empowering women in their 30s to make mindful shifts, find their purpose, and step into their power.
This podcast is not just about discussions, it's a movement. We're here to break through the barriers that hold women back from freely expressing themselves. The world needs your unique voice, and we're here to help you find it.
So thank you for joining Jess and Erin on The Sound of Self. Let's unlock the power within and create a life that resonates with the true essence of you.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to The Sound of Self. So excited to share a special guest with you today. It's just Erin, as Jess is away on maternity leave, being a beautiful new mum and enjoying that new journey in her own life. So I brought my wonderful brother here today to share about his own life in creative expression. Creative expression is something that I'm very passionate about, and I know you've all heard me talk about this many times in our last episodes. But today, I thought it would be really beautiful to get a masculine insight onto what it means to live out on your creative expression, because I know sometimes for men it can be hard, and it's not always easy to have a career that is based on portraying emotions, basically, which is what Errol does. So a little bit about Errol. He's born in New Zealand. He started out in Sydney with his University of Southern Queensland acting degree. His work has varied across impressive industry names and titles over the years, directors, producers, locations, stretching all over the globe. There was one time he went to Scotland. I was very jealous. His diverse body of work is a great reflection of the integrity he brings to the screen as an actor, whether it's film, television, drama, action, or comedy. His work is known for characters being connected, complex, and engaging, leaving you wanting more. So there's something that, in Errol's own words, I liked, which was about his approach to acting, where every job provides a new challenge, every character provides some aspect of life that he has never explored, and that's one of the key aspects of acting that fuels his passion for the job and will continue forever. So, yeah, Errol, here you are. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me today. So we're going to have a conversation about what it has meant for you to live out a life of creative expression.
I think it's a challenging goal to want to be an artist, and there's so many layers that are challenging in that. So obviously there's a financial one, there is quite often there's no reward, and yet you seem to put a lot out. So and then, or often, for all the work that you put in, it almost feels like you're not even heard, or seen, or feel validated. And not that that's necessary, but because it all really needs to, at the end of the day, be to do with self, and you're the only person that you need to satisfy, or to be true to. I think, and that's the only way to really get through it. Because if you put the ownership or the power into someone else's hands, then you're disempowered. And it's not about you then. It's not about your art form. It's about theirs, or their money structure, or their voice. So I think the most rewarding thing about a vocation in creative expression is that you need to find your reason why, and find your voice, and I think once you do, then a lot of it seems kind of easy in a sense, because you have the confidence to go ahead. Whereas if you feel disempowered, you feel that you give that over, then you're questioning everything. And if you're not making money, if you're not moving forward, if you're not growing as an artist, then you then question: is it me? Is it my talent? Am I not good enough? Am I, and I really don't think that. I mean, you have to be honest with yourself. I think that's a big thing that many people aren't, who stay in quite a few art forms, and I think maybe they just haven't found the right place for themselves. Or I think honesty is a very vital and an important part of being a creative artist and creative expression. That truth. So being truth about who you are, what you are, whether you should even be there.
And what is it that has kept you going over the years? Because I know, as my brother, you're super inspiring to me because you've always kept at your dreams, but that's not been easy, especially in the field of acting, because it can be one of the most brutal industries. What has kept you going in those times when it's been challenging to get work or to really find your own integrity with your acting?
I think it has to be the thing that I've discovered is that it's got to be your why. You have to realize why you're doing it. You have to be honest about that. What's your goal? And the goal for me is just to work. The goal for me is to. It's never been about money. It's never been about getting to a certain point, whatever that point may be. It's never been. It's never been the reward. I guess it's just about the mahi, which means work in Te Reo, the Maori language, and because it's the mahi that and connecting when you do it, that it is the reward. There's nothing like what I feel when I do what I do. There's nothing makes me as complete, or whole as what I do, and it might even be a shitty project. It might not be the greatest thing that I don't particularly want to do it, but once I commit and I go in, the second I'm doing something, then I feel that again. I think it's tapping into an energy, and that creative energy is very, very powerful. If you're true to it. Like if you're not, and you're just ticking boxes, then it's not going to be very fulfilling. It might satisfy your ego, but it's not going to satisfy your soul.
I can relate to that too with the music career, and when I've written songs for the sake of trying to get them on the radio or just trying to make them good, they've never been as good as just enjoying myself and doing it because it feels amazing to be in the moment, enjoying doing what I do. And it's very similar to the Japanese word of ikigai, where you find that sense of purpose or just sense of passion, because it just feels like what you said, it makes you feel whole when you do it. And there's many times where I've tried other careers or considered stopping it, but there's been nothing that's really compared to
It's just not the same.
Yeah, being in that creative zone. And, for me, that's part of my spiritual journey as well, is being in that beautiful, mindful oneness that you get when you're in that zone of genius.
Yeah, and I suppose like with being a musician, so when you're having those moments of connection, they're generally, in the most part, it's two-sided. So there's others feeding energy into you, such as shared energy.
Yeah.
Which is even more powerful, right? So it's not just a self-flagellation thing. It's kind of, or just honing in on something that's in there you need to express. Quite often it'll be shared, especially with what I do, and that's a beautiful thing. You do all your prep, you do all you tap into the psychology, you do all this stuff and the technical aspects of it, and then you just live and breathe in the moment. And then if someone else is feeding stuff in, then that's even more exciting because you don't know what that energy is going to bring. And like with jazz or whatever, you just go with it, and it's just really exciting because every moment is new, because you'd never explored or thought about what that, you might have thought conceptually what it might have been, but you've never felt it. It's always fresh. I don't know how people do plays over and over again. I do film and TV.
Yeah.
And I imagine that theatre can be very difficult. But again, I think if you allow yourself to go places within the constraints and the boundaries of a theatrical show, you're still finding new moments. Hopefully, that would be what I would always aim for. Although, even if I found that was possibly stagnant because I'd gone over the same lines, the same movements time and time again, I think I'd have to come back to the fact. Well, why are you doing this? Well, it's about the work. This is what I want to do. and then I would find something else in that. There's always something else to find, I think, because nothing's finite, really. Especially in creative arts. If you're open and fluid, you can go anywhere. Right, a song can become anything. It might start off light, and then end up dark, and end up completely strange, whatever. It's the
Yeah.
same with any performance. You might tailor it to be, you might think here's this dark character, and all of a sudden you get all this lightness out of it. It's like, well, where did that come from? There's a host of things. So an open book, as long as you're open to it, and yeah, the world's your oyster.
What advice would you give someone listening, say if it's themselves or their partner, to pursue something like that? Where would they start?
Yeah, I get asked questions similar to that quite often with acting, and my gut instinct is just to go, keep it as a hobby,
Yeah.
and don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't think you're the next whatever. Get in any way you can, I guess, is probably my main thing. Get it into a place somewhere, and then feel what that feels like. Meet some people. Start. Don't think just because people say words in this business it's easy. Like there's a whole. I've been doing this. What am I? I'm in my 50s now, and so I've been doing this for well over 30. I mean, I started with our mum, right, doing kids shows. So when I was probably 10 or 12 or whatever I was. So over 40 years, I've been doing bits and pieces in different ways and forms with this business, and everything has been a lesson along the way. Even the struggles. How do you deal with struggles? How do you deal with financial burdens? How do you deal with all that stuff? Like everything is a lesson, so you have to turn it around. But to get started in a business, like I would just any way you can. So even write something. Maybe the great thing now is that people can film things on their phones, and there's tutorials everywhere. There's lots of stuff you got people making TikToks and YouTube, and whereas when I started there wasn't that stuff. Like
Yeah.
you do co-op theater, or you would just audition for things and hardly ever get anything on film and TV because it was select, or you try and go to the local theater but you wouldn't get in because like it seems a lot easier now, but then of course because it's easier there's more people, right? So I guess it's just putting in the groundwork, see if it fits, see if it drives you, see if you can find a passion in it, and if that's there, then that will continue on. If not, and if it's a hard slog, geez, get up, give up, like because it's just way too. It bruises the hell out of your ego if you're not meant to be there.
And that's something I noticed when you were talking before. It seemed we had that similar theme of when we had an expectation on the creative outcome, that's when it seemed harder.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like the more we don't have the expectation, we have an openness and a curiosity around it, the better the journey is and the more enjoyable it is. And I find particularly with music and singing, when people come to me for vocal lessons, they always have this expectation of what they're meant to sound like, or they've had the expectation of someone else. They've taken on someone else's expectation, which hasn't been met. So how do you deal with that?
I think I put to bed a long time ago allowing the onus to be on other people or other even productions. If I'm doing an audition for something, I'll take in all the information, but I'll only submit something I'm happy with, not that I think someone else is happy with, because I think, again, you just disempower yourself. And I think you can't work at your best without being relaxed, and you can only be relaxed if you feel free to explore and do whatever. And
Yeah, and of course there's a bit of technique behind that as well, right?
without a doubt.
With what you're doing, you have to be open to failing forward. Like you have to make mistakes to learn from them as well, and then
Absolutely.
you improve your technique as you go. But this is coming more from a sense of self-awareness and mental health and how we can really enjoy that journey of creative expression.
Yeah, I guess I'm lucky, and I guess many people are kind of lucky in a sense with creative, allowing that creativity and that emotional creativity to be free. But you're allowed to fail. That's the thing, and you're allowed to express in any way you want. There is no wrong, I think, which is what I allow myself to do. And it's just about exploration. It's if I don't cry, then it doesn't matter, because who's to say that my feeling needs to end up like that. You know, if you put all those things together, I think one of the, I mean, it comes with so many things, right? So age and an extensive CV, time on the ground, feeds into technical ability and just experience, right? And then with that sort of grounding, and you add that into or you, because you've got all that stuff, and you know certain aspects that you can play around with, it just frees up you to just be present in the space, right? So you would be very lucky if you were a newbie, you know, and you were coming out and you just got it, right? And you instinctively, it takes a long time for things to seem easy when you're watching it.
And that's so true, because I get so many people come up to me and go, "Oh, you're such an amazing singer." I'm like, "Yeah, because I've been working on this for over 10 years." And they compare themselves to me in the session. I go, you've only been doing this for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever, how long. And so I think it's part of accepting yourself and taking it with grace, like just accepting that it's not going to be perfect, and there probably will never be perfect, because perfect is a myth, really.
And say that, you know, the only thing consistent about this industry is the inconsistencies of it, because it's constantly, you know, throwing up stuff. Like as much as I might think I know what's going to happen with something, just about 80 to 90% of the time there'll be a curveball in it. And
like you're getting your hair cut today.
Well, I knew that was coming, but you know that was sort of right from the get go. But no, I mean, many things you might think are simple. All of a sudden, like the last job I was doing, in Alice Springs, and the entire place was inundated with a plague of flies. You know, and so
that's right. I remember you
so
telling me that story.
within the 6-week shoot, you were eating flies. You know, four flies a day, or whatever, and you know, it's just something else to deal with, and
extra protein,
but you know, like not only on top of really intense storylines and emotional content, you're then having to deal with the practical side, the physical side of the fact that you can't actually be where you thought you'd be, so you have to just go with it. So you have to allow yourself to just accept, well, in this environment, in this world that I'm in right now, there's a plague of flies, and that's just that's just what it is. And so, you know, all of a sudden, you know, half the crew goes down with COVID, and you've got, you know, you're down for a week, and next minute you're pushed out, which throws your schedule. And you know, there's always just something.
How's that affected your mental health? How have you taken care of your mental health through that?
I found, I think early on, exercise was the best thing for me for mental health and structure. So you're taking control of the one thing that you can do, which is part of your day, like whether just after you wake up or whatever it is. So for me, being in control of my physical body and helps my own mental state of mind, and you know, you could be fizzing out for whatever reason when you wake up, when you've gone to sleep, but you can do a reset, a physical reset, and whether it's a run, whether it's, you know, a 40-minute, whatever it is, you know, and you can mix everything up. Like I work out 7 days a week, and I have for most of my life now.
And for the listeners, Errol does most of his own stunts too, so that's a big part of Errol's acting.
Yeah, well, that's right. So I've been able to, you know, make that part of my job. So looking after my own mental health and physical well-being is part of my job, because you know, like we're both in an industry that it seems like it's hell bent on smashing down your ego with a big axe. Like it's, you know, the multiple times you get rejection, right? So, and that's just what it is. It's kind of like, you know, art is subjective, so it takes a while to realize that you can't win them all. But that doesn't mean that you're not any good. You know, because that sense of good comes from self.
Yeah.
And that sense of good comes from your confidence. So this is why I talk about disempowerment. So you know, I've had thousands of knockbacks, right? And you know, all through my career. And it's only now that pretty consistent my workload. It's just about climbing ladders and making sure you're solid in technique, you know, your mental health, all this stuff. It's just just stay tight, stay focused, know what your goal is. So yeah, like I think I've spiraled out multiple times, but once I would say in all my career, I've only thought about giving up once. And that was 7 years ago now. I was 40, soon 45. So kind of, I had two knockbacks, one with the two feature films in NZ. And yeah, I've been in talks with one guy for over a year, and then the funding body said no, you can't look at him, and then that happened again with another project, and it's kind of there'd been a few other things happening, and there'd been a lull as well. So there were two projects that were supposed to happen, and they bottomed out. It's kind of like, well, how can you be at the top of your game and not be employable? How is this even possible, especially with a creative funding body who's supposed to be backing emerging and new talent to put it on an international stage, and then they don't. So that was a really big knock. And I think, that marrying in with depression at the same time, it was a perfect storm. And so, like, for the first time ever, I just felt, oh, I'm sick of feeling like this. And I do everything I can to not feel like this. But you can't stop feeling like this. Like, it's just, life is waves. It's just constantly waves. It's ups and downs. And that will never stop because the world is constantly moving and our emotions are constantly moving. And it just is what it is. If you just did the same thing all the time, you might as well just either be dead or asleep. Because it would be boring as batshit.
And that's what creative expression is about as well. It's allowing those different cycles to come through and exploring, continuing to be curious. But those are amazing points, Errol. And just to, I suppose, finish up our session today. Session, sound like a counsellor. To finish off our session, thank you. What would be the take home for you if you could go back and talk to yourself in that moment that you said when you felt like giving up? What would you say to yourself?
Well, I think it's what I did at that time, and I said to because one thing I've learned is that we have a pretty volatile emotional response to things. I certainly do, and I've learned to just at least hold it a day, and give myself time. It's like counting to 10 or something like that. But it's just if you feel the same way, tomorrow, then maybe do that. But don't action on it now. Someone makes you really angry. You can't just go and punch them in the head. You can't go and let down their tires. You just go, oh, I really feel like doing that, but I'm not doing that because I'll end up in jail or whatever. But so what I said to myself, I gave myself a day or two because I was fucking really pissed off.
Yeah.
And then I said to myself, you know what? I put in way too much time and investment in my career to just walk away from it now. And it's like, well, when do you walk away from it? I went, give myself 5 years. And if I'm still if I make some changes, and I did, and I changed agencies, and I did a few other things and moved back to Oz, and and I gave myself 5 years, and I said, if I'm still doing the same thing in 5 years' time, and I will still have the same highs and lows, then make that decision. And that would be when I was 50.
Beautiful.
Well, by the time I was 50, and I turned 50 in March a couple of years ago, and I was doing, the day I turned 50, I was doing two jobs. I was doing one with Jason Momoa in New Zealand and one with Jodie Whittaker and one night in Sydney, and I was staying in a 5-star hotel, and I just paid off my student loan. So, in 5 years' time, I was actually working more than I'd ever had worked before.
Yeah.
I'd finished off my debt. I went down the road to the Sydney Opera House and watched a mate play Macbeth. When I was there in 2000, I had no money to do anything because I just finished uni, and I went and I was poor. I had nothing. So I look back at those 5 years, and I just went, well, if I'd given up 5 years ago, I wouldn't be here now. So you just never know what's around the corner, and take a breath, rethink, and take one step at a time. That's a huge mantra of mine, one step at a time.
And what I took away from that was give it space and give it a boundary. Yeah, which was really great advice for anyone wanting to explore acting or expression. So thank you so much, Errol. That's been such an awesome conversation today. I'm definitely sure that our listeners will get lots of value out of it. And if you are looking to do anything with your voice, please listen to some of our other episodes. Reach out, ask us questions, what you'd like to hear next in our next episode of The Sound of Self.